Motorcycle.com YouTube fans, this one is for you, and it's because of you. A few months ago when I rode the Aprilia RS660 for its press intro, in the comments section a few of you said, hey, can you compare that to the Ducati Supersport? And that sparked an idea. Well, why don't we do that? Ta-da! Here it is, the Ducati Supersport and the Aprilia RS660. You could call these gentlemen sport bikes, maybe. A little bit sporty looks, sporty dynamics, but with a nod towards comfortable street riding with a little bit higher bars, a little bit more comfortable seat, a little bit lower pegs, you know, with a little bit of a nod towards comfort, but with some sporty, aggressive attributes too. John, I hate to date you right now, but you still have a fresh memory of the original Ducati Supersport.
It's true. Turns out that they actually are kind of more comparable than I expected they would be.
Ooh, go on.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they're both, you know, they're both like 12 or 13,000 bucks, aren't they?
Well, this being the S model Ducati, it's like 15.5 or something.
This one's 12 something. They're kind of the kinder, gentler now that the Panigale V4 is here and makes 200 horsepower. It's like, and the RS V4 has always been a monster also. So those are cool if you want to go to the racetrack, or I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. I would have loved that when I was 20 or even 30 years old. But now these kinder, gentler ones kind of make more sense.
I don't know. Even when I was 30, I wrote something about how sport bikes on the street are terrible. This kind of makes up for that. Plenty of power, enough to have fun, and not enough to scare you, and not enough to just destroy your back and your wrists. These are the kinds of bikes, if I were to be, you know, taking sport bikes or sporty bikes on the street, these are the kinds of things I would want to ride around, not like an R1 or something.
And even though, like you're saying, I do remember the original Supersport 900. Was it 1994? They're in the mid 1900s. It came out in the mid 1990s, and the old one was
back when Truman was president.
Yeah, the old one was an air-cooled monster motor, and they were great because they made a lot of torque, but you know, only maybe 80 horsepower on top. And this one, even though it's called Supersport, it's got the Testastretta 11-degree motor from the old 998. So the thing actually, it's got good power. It's got mid 90s power, at least.
Yeah. To clarify, it's a thoroughly modern 937cc Testastretta 11-degree.
Yeah. Liquid cooled, not like the old air cooled ones. The Aprilia is a little bit sharper edged of a blade. It's a little more hyperactive. It turns and steers a little quicker on the street. The Ducati is, you know, will turn and burn pretty quick in the tight stuff, better than I thought it would. But I rode that one back from San Francisco last week, coming down Highway 1, where the roads are a little bit more, you know, open, faster flowing curves and stuff. And I think I prefer the Ducati on that. Also because of its extra power, its extra torque via its 937 versus 660cc bigger displacement. It's got more roll-on power. If you're kind of cruising casually in a gentlemanly way, where on the tight corners back here, this one's better. It turns and burns better.
I agree.
But it's got that big flat spot in the power band that I didn't feel before.
Sure does.
Like from up around 5,000 RPM, if you watch the video, I'm coming off this corner and whacking it in second gear, and it's kind of, when it gets to 6, it scoots.
Yep.
And it kind of wants you to downshift to first, which is an option, but it feels kind of abusive. It's easy to do because of the quick shifter, but it feels like you're burning more gas than you should or something.
Hey, it's not our bike.
Yeah, it's not our bike. So,
funny you mentioned that, because when I rode at the press intro for the 660, I didn't notice that flat spot because the roads we were riding were always, you know, revving it way up high, and we didn't ever go down that low. Right. Then Ron Adams rides the Tuono 660, and he, along with a bunch of other people who rode it, said there's this giant flat spot between like 4,000 to 6,000 RPM. And sure enough, I hopped on it afterwards, and clear as day, So, yes, they're supposed to be the same engine, and today, riding the 660 on a different road where there were some tighter turns, I felt it too, that lull from about 4 to 6.
Then again, I don't really feel it that much other than in second gear, so maybe it's in the programming. Maybe we need to do something.
Well, yeah, John, I agree. Around tighter roads like this, that Aprilia is super fun. It's super agile.
Yeah.
This Ducati, it'll go around just fine. It's a little bit slower, a little bit more stable, a little bit more lethargic, but compared to that. Well, I mean, these are two motorcycles that are meant to be ridden comfortably yet quickly on the street, but could also handle a track day.
I think they could handle a track day for shizzle, because that feels like an old 998.
Well, I think what we should do next is go to a racetrack.
We can't go to a racetrack. That's expensive. We don't have time for that.
Watch this. Get the opinion of some of these hardcore track folk and just see, are these the kinds of bikes that they would want to ride around the canyons and then ride to a track day and go mess around? Let's go find out. Let's go find some willing victims to ask this question.
I'll get a second opinion. Maybe a third and a fourth one.
Right there. There's my buddy Rob Weaver, electric bike guy, also rides an RSV4. I'm gonna hunt him down and ask him what he thinks. I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think of not just this, but like bikes that you could tootle around on the street in the canyons and then ride to the track and rip around on?
I mean, I ride an RSV4,
right,
as you know, which is on the street, it's just a handful. It's just a monster. And I got on one of these because I'm really thinking about taking a step down, because you don't need all that horsepower. And I rode one of these, just a quick demo down the freeway and stuff, and I was struck by how comfortable it is. They really worked on the comfort. You know, most of these leader bikes, super bikes that are on the street, or even a lot of them out here with guys, if you were to do data logging and see how often they get to 100% throttle,
it's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
But what if I asked you to make a 180-degree turn and look at the red bike behind you?
Yeah.
What do you think about that guy?
Well, I mean, you know, it's a Ducati, so what can you say? Ducatis are beautiful bikes. It's an awesome bike. I'm not familiar with the 990, but I think that
the ethos is the same. You can ride it around all day and then come to a track.
I would suspect that this bike has a little more punch.
Just a smidge.
Yeah.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Sit on it.
This is not bad.
Yeah.
It's a little higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the V4S.
Yeah.
Has the B4.
And I was telling him, in terms of power, it's got a ton of power, but to me, it's not usable. Right? It's probably on street, you could probably use it 70-80% at most.
Definitely.
So, yeah. As a matter of fact, I just bought a Tuono, and that's because it has usable power.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Max used to race.
I used to race the 848,
The 848.
Ducati, 1098, 1198. I did all of them, but but those had usable power back then. Oh yeah, the ergonomics are so much.
It took you about 1 second to realize.
Yeah, it's immediate.
Friendly.
Yeah.
And you can still go pretty quick on these things, and actually feel like you're riding the bike and not like the bike is riding you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Right?
So, what do you think?
I think it's very comfortable. Question: does it have the same chassis as the Tuono or the RSV4?
No. This is a whole new chassis for the 660 engine.
Can you compare them or?
Oh yeah, I mean, the RSV4 clearly is meant to be doing this kinds of stuff, so it's really awesome that way. But This is no slouch either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's really sporty and agile, and
It's manageable.
oh yeah, very much so.
When I rode it, I was impressed at how agile it felt. I was like, oh wow, it's comfortable, but it feels like you can move around with this. Well, I'm really glad to see Aprilia doing this, because I think this is a really undervalued segment of the market. You know, that they're finally saying, okay, we got to reach those guys that are not the superbike, jockeys who want an agile, fun street bike that they can also go out and with a few tweaks run really good lap times.
You asked him, would you get one of these if you're 20 years younger? And if he was 20 years younger, he'd still be an old guy. Because he's in the same boat as me, A long, long ways.
So yeah, John, we did it. Look at them go. Look at them go.
It's always fun to go to the racetrack, isn't it?
Yeah, watching other kids play right now.
Watch the other kids play at the end of the day.
Well, we got to play some
Yeah,
other too.
we actually got to play, and I was kind of afraid because I rode up here on the Ducati that I was going to be so tired at the end of the day that because I know how tired you get riding big motorcycles around up here. I feel pretty fresh. I was worried I was going to have to get a hotel room because I'd be too shagged out, but I actually feel okay. I'm going to hop on the Ducati and ride 160 miles to get back home.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! You're gonna do what?
Yeah, I'm going to get on this thing.
But there's a glaring issue there.
Huh. Oh, I'm going to jump on the Aprilia and ride it home because I rode the Ducati up here.
But why the Aprilia, other than the fact that you rode that up here?
Just because it's your story and you said I should take the Aprilia.
There's
there's another reason.
There's a great reason.
I'm not going to say it.
It's your primary reason too.
I'm not going to say it because everybody gives me a hard time every time I say it.
I'm
not going to say it anymore.
I'm going to say it because it's
I'm
a
not
great
gonna say it
reason.
anymore.
It's a great reason. Cruise control.
Cruise control, buddy.
One
Cruise
of these
control.
two bikes has cruise control and it's not red.
One of the others not like. Yeah, the cruise control is a nice thing to have. I mean, it's like 160 miles to my house in Santa Ana, pretty much down the 5 freeway.
There you go.
I think it's a straight shot. In 30 or 50 miles of that's Los Angeles,
See?
and it's terrible. But once you get past there, go over the Grapevine. There was no cars this morning at 7 a.m. It was beautiful. The sun was coming up. Dropped down to the Great Valley. It's beautiful. And if I'd had the cruise control, because we were going quite a bit more than the speed limit, I gotta say, the Ducati's still got that long-legged L-twin and it likes to go fast on the freeway, and it was a beautiful ride. Got the Olean suspension, had it backed off to the softer settings, and it's just really a nice cush ride. If I could have taken my right hand off, it would have been perfect.
It goes good.
I enjoyed riding it. But it doesn't go so good like a Panigale
Well.
that goes, it scares you.
But who wants to be scared, really?
Not me.
This is a nice and forgiving and gentle and relaxing
Yeah,
motorcycle
yeah.
to ride fast.
Yeah.
So is the Aprilia.
That one's pretty fun too.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't walking away from me too much on that guy when I was on the Aprilia, so that was nice. Don't get me wrong, you were still walking away from me.
Is that right?
You still were
See
walking
it.
away,
I hate-
but
I hate-
not too much.
Don't have mirrors so I can flip you off when you're back there and stuff. But
I mean, I could feel it. Just your
Yeah.
aura was like giving me the finger from the front there. But I think that's rated at like 116 odd horsepower.
I think it's 111 or 12.
Something like
actually.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
This is rated up about 100 crank horsepower. So not a crazy difference in power.
Not a crazy difference.
What do you think about this?
That one, I'm really impressed by it. I mean, the Ducati feels kind of old school, kind of long, and and it's not real quick turning, but it's real stable. And you can hit the fast bends really quick on the Ducati. It just kind of encourages you to bend it into fast corners. That one's really nimble in the tight parts of the track out here. I
you
guess
can-
the wheelbase is shorter,
Yeah.
center of gravity's a little bit higher on that one. And yeah, that thing's very good. It feels like the modern age. Until you come to the straight, you don't have as much power when you get on the gas.
I mean, you can visually see the difference in wheelbase between the two.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Ducati is fun and stable to ride around on until you lean the thing over too much, and then
What'd you get?
you start to drag hard parts.
Oh yeah. I didn't have that problem. I wasn't going that fast.
And I thought that was my toe slider hit. Well, it was, but it's also the exhaust scraping on the ground,
Yeah,
which was a bit disconcerting.
this bike kind of one of the few that cries out for an aftermarket exhaust.
A little bit.
Like I was saying, because to change the rear tire, you have to take those exhaust tips off of there. Everybody's like, oh, you can probably get it. Like, no, you can't.
No.
You got to take the exhaust tips off every time. So if anybody makes an aftermarket, like more upswept or something,
I'm
it
sure
would actually
someone
be
does.
a good investment for this motorcycle.
You were even saying, right, the whole beauty of a single-sided swing arm is you can just pop that tire off.
Not on this bike.
Not on
it's
that
beautiful if you don't do your own tire swaps, which
Yeah.
everybody does.
Yeah, I think John, I can't believe this, but I think we agree.
Yeah,
Both are really fun bikes. This is more agile, more nimble,
yeah,
not as powerful as that.
yeah.
That's stable, really fun to flick around. The low ground clearance is a bit of an issue. So it comes down to electronics these days, I think. Did you experience anything electronics-wise?
You know, I put it in sport, dialed the Ducati traction control down to like 1. Put the ABS on 1, so that's like the race setting. You can lock up the rear if you're not careful. I probably should have kept it on 2 so I wouldn't lock up the rear. Right. But anyway, you can, you know, in the tight corners it's fun because you feel free to dial on the gas and to not worry about it much.
Yeah, no, you're
You feel
right.
it spinning, but it's never sliding or anything
To
like
me,
that.
that was the big difference between the two.
All right.
We're on street tires. Did a pretty good amount of track sessions today. And yeah, the tires got greasy. That's what street tires do. The rears got a bit swirly and slippery when you got on the gas. The difference electronics-wise was the Aprilia, even on TC level 1, the lowest setting, when it kicks in hard. That Ducati, even on TC1, the lowest setting, you hardly feel it. You know it's there because it's something feels like you're not quite going as good as you should be, but it's not like hampering you and just like pulling you back. The Aprilia feels like it's pulling you backwards until you stand the bike upright, and then it says, okay, go, and just kind of launches you onto wherever you're going next. So I think, to me anyway, that was a big difference electronics-wise, was the integration is so much smoother on the Ducati, whereas on the Aprilia, it was really noticeable. But I think next time we should just put slicks on these things and that won't be a problem.
That'd be pretty fun, probably.
Well, yeah, that concludes our track portion. Back to us on the street. And we are back. So, Johnny, track time, street time. Now is the crunch time. Which one's your pick?
I like that one in the tight parts of Button Willow. It was a blast in the tight little up over the rock corner thing. And the S's is great. But this one kind of spanked it going down the straights.
Oh, it didn't spank it.
It's quite a bit quicker.
It was making a gap, but not a really big one.
Man, I don't know. The Ducati's a little more beautiful. We had it at Laguna Seca a couple years ago, and I wasn't that impressed, but it's kind of growing on me, or maybe because it's parked next to the Aprilia, which is a great bike, and it's functionally a great bike, but I don't know if it kind of has a toy-like overall effect on me. The switchgear feels a little cheaper on it. It feels more like a functional transformer toy than it does a motorcycle that I want to ride every day. Unless I'm going to ride every day, sporting use only. If you live at the bottom of this mountain and you're going to do this all the time, then that's the one. But for going up the coast to San Francisco, I want the Ducati. But I don't think I'm not going to commit to that answer? I'm not going to commit to either one of these two, because this one's got things about it I don't like.
Our conclusion is that both bikes have things we like, but enough things that we don't like to actually committing to one is too hard for us to do.
Pop out! Pop out!
Hey, I committed to one. I said the 660.
I'm afraid of commitment.
All right. Well,
Ask anybody.
Well, I said it here first on video. If I had to pick one of these two, I would pick the Aprilia.
Even with the flat spot.
Even with a flat spot that could hopefully be tuned out through a flash or something.
It's got cruise control though. I'll give it that. I'll give it that. It's a good little motorcycle.
Cruise control, the lower price tag. I think those are the two things that ultimately sway me towards the Aprilia over the Ducati and my own personal tastes. And then also not probably, a larger aftermarket support fan base that's growing for the RS660. I think those three things would sway me on the Aprilia over the Ducati.
And there'll probably be like a factory version of that next year. They'll have cooler upscale parts on it anyway, or an R, whatever it is.
Patience is a virtue.
I think for me, yeah, I think if I had to do one of these two, I'd have to do the Ducati, just based on my oldness. I like the way it looks. I like the steel trellis. I'll have to do something about the exhaust, but that's probably not that hard to do. And I'm probably not going to travel on it much. I'm going to, look at it in the garage a lot, take it the occasional track day. So cruise control is not a deal breaker on this one.
John.
Or is it?
You've made the past 10 years of your life all about cruise control on every single motorcycle in existence.
Okay,
now you're gonna.
I'd take the Aprilia too. But I really like the Ducati also.
Way to be swayed.
Hey, you know what? These are both great motorcycles and they're both winners.
And there you have it, folks. John can't commit. Surprisingly, I thought he was gonna pick the cruise control bike, but he has not. I have though, but he hasn't. Go figure. So anyway, there you have it. Our very thorough and in-depth, intense overview and review and comparison of the Aprilia RS660 and the Ducati Supersport 950S. If you want to know more about what we think, I still have to write the written words of this test for Motorcycle.com. Maybe by then, John will change his mind, come to a conclusion, who knows. But stay tuned. Go to Motorcycle.com for the written version of this test where hopefully there'll be a conclusion there. But as far as the video goes, that's it from us. Hopefully this got you happy and excited about both of these two bikes, and we'll see you next time.